What's up? This is Ryan with Planet Cheapskate. In this video, we are going to be discussing why you should never use your bank for a mortgage and the 5 major reasons why brokers are better. I'm going to break down everything other guides or advisors don't or won't tell you. Now, a warning, these things I'm about to share are some of the deepest and financially protected secrets in our industry. They don't want you to know this, but I assure you, you're not going to want to miss it. Now, be sure to also stick around to the very end of this video for 2 very valuable loan hacks that you can use to ask your loan officer to determine right away if they have your best interest at hand. But first, I'd just like to take a very brief moment to personally invite you to subscribe and join our community. I do a home loan rate update every Friday going into the weekend, along with a new video on Thursdays, helping you manage through the world of credit, investing, real estate, and home loans. Also, when you do subscribe, be sure to hit that little bell and it will alert you whenever I release fresh content. Now, with all that out of the way, let's dive right in. So, I wanted to start with a story of a family I helped during the COVID pandemic. This family had come to me because they wanted to explore their refinance options, which I was able to eventually help them accomplish with the help of one of their family members. See, they had learned the hard way why you should never, ever use your bank to get a mortgage. So aviation is a crucial and critical industry for our community here in Wichita, Kansas. And this particular family depended on it like many others. Unfortunately, due to COVID, the father was temporarily laid off from his position, and the family was down to just one salary to make ends meet. I think they were still in a little bit of shock whenever they came to my office that afternoon to tell me the story of what had happened to them. When they received the news about the layoff, they went into a little bit of a survival mode to the extent that they focused on buying the necessities and letting other things slip. The family was out buying groceries one evening when they tried to use their debit card and the card was declined. Thinking this was some sort of an error or security freeze, the mother called the institution and was kindly told that they only had about $35 in their account. That's when panic set in. They thought they may have been a victim of theft or fraudulent charges. Well, it was neither of those things. What it ended up being was due to the panic, depression, and shock of the father being laid off, they forgot to pay the mortgage. So on day 39 of being late on their mortgage, the credit union they were using took the liberty to automatically deduct their mortgage and late fees from their checking account without their knowledge or authorization. Now, before I go any further, I just want to clarify one thing. Despite the fancy name, credit unions and banks are pretty much the same thing. One serves shareholders and the other serves their members. I would actually venture to say banks are better and your rights are more protected versus a credit union, since many credit unions are privately owned and held by the members of the institution. It's not always the case, but typically banks are publicly owned and subject to more stricter compliance rules. Now, with that said, back to the family and their situation. So the credit union automatically withdraws the funds the family had budgeted for food and necessities during the pandemic, leaving them with $35 to make it until their next paycheck. And this is reason number 1 why you should never ever use your bank or credit union to get your mortgage. When you have a mortgage or any loan for that matter, that institution has the authority and access to automatically withdraw those past due funds. Now, no one gets into a loan or a mortgage wanting to go late or dead set on not being able to make the payment, but sometimes the unexpected happens, and you deserve and should want that control in those instances when disaster strikes to be able to budget and pay that when you choose to. So what would have happened if this family had one of their children or other family members sick in the hospital and this was the last funds they had available to them to comfort their loved ones? What if the family had to go without food for 2 weeks until the mother was able to get her next paycheck? What if that was the only money that they had for urgent prescriptions? When you get your mortgage through your bank or credit union, there is nothing protecting you from this sort of activity. And this is why you should never get a mortgage with an institution where you hold your funds. It's best to diversify your accounts and finances because, believe it or not, these institutions can do this with any of your accounts. It's written in their fine print. So this leads me to my first reason why mortgage brokers are better. Right off the bat, the number one reason home loan mortgage brokers are better than a bank or credit union loan representative is because a mortgage broker is federally licensed and state regulated to represent your best interest in any financial transaction that you do with them. This is called fiduciary duty. Bank and credit union loan representatives are not required to carry the same license. In fact, most times these bank or credit union employees will not be representing your best interests. They'll be looking out for the bank or credit union that cuts their check every 2 weeks. In a wild twist of irony, a mortgage broker is typically paid by these same banks, but the banks don't get the same fiduciary protection when you choose to work with an independent mortgage broker. That's why they spend millions each year in advertising to try to get you to call them directly or walk in their doors to the same place you take your money when you want to borrow it. This is the worst thing you could do. But sadly, about 3 out of every 4 loans, the borrower made the wrong choice and went with a retail lender. A retail lender is just a combined name for any lender who's not a broker. So this could be a bank or credit union representative, or just a branch that maybe just focuses on setting up in different communities to just do mortgages, but they're still a retail lender. They're not a broker. They don't work with multiple banks and lenders and make them compete. So banks and credit unions despise mortgage brokers. They know that if you walk through their doors and get a mortgage without consulting with a mortgage broker, they will be able to give you whatever rate that they think they can get away with, pay the representative who helps you a $50,000 or $60,000 a year salary, and then keep the rest. It's a win-win-win for them. Why these bank loan representatives are not legally required to be independently licensed to represent your best interest still confounds me to this day. Until the laws change, for this reason alone, you should always use an independent licensed mortgage broker. The story of the family earlier, along with this explanation, tells you exactly where the fiduciary duty of the bank or credit union and their employees resides. So the second reason is, at the end of the day, banks, credit unions are not focused 100% on the success of your mortgage. They're worrying about finding customers for auto loans, checking, savings accounts, along with many, many other things. So with your home loan, you'll never be priority number one for them, like you would be with a mortgage brokerage that focuses 100% all their time and energy on home loans and home loans alone. In fact, an independent mortgage broker loan officer is required to complete 20 hours of exclusive home loan education, pass a mega difficult mortgage license test, and then complete 8 additional hours of education every single year. Do you know how much education a bank associate is required to have? You probably guessed it. 0 hours. So many people notice when working with a bank or credit union employee to do their loan that rather than working with someone who is financially putting together the best strategy for them as a mortgage advisor would, they're more like an order taker. If you are truly looking for a mortgage advisor who will find the best loan product and rate for you, then you absolutely must work with a mortgage broker. See, a mortgage broker has an almost never-ending amount of loan products and specials because they work with so many different lenders. This is also why they can typically get you a better mortgage interest rate, because when they send their feelers out to the lenders and the banks they work with, those institutions know that they're competing against every other lender or bank that broker is signed up with. Because of this, they get super competitive with their offers or what they're willing to do for you. The fourth reason brokers are better is they usually have a much more polished or fine-tuned loan process for you. What this means is you will typically be closing much faster and easier with a broker versus a bank. Now, every loan and borrower is a bit different, but on average, brokers are not only better, but they're also faster at getting you to the closing table. Not to mention the broker's availability and your access to call them at any time during the process. When you work with a bank or retail loan officer, good luck reaching them outside of the 9 to 5. Also, don't count on them being at your closing, as you would most likely find your mortgage broker. A great mortgage broker will be there at the table with you just in case anything questionable pops up. So last but certainly not least, one of the biggest reasons why mortgage brokers are better comes down to cost. Now, according to data released by the CFPB, which is just an agency that regulates all things financial, the data they came up with in 2021, the average borrower who used an independent mortgage broker saved an additional $9,407 on their 30-year fixed home loan versus those who used a bank or retail lender. The reasons are really quite simple. Most independent mortgage brokers are small businesses. They are the small local businesses just trying to put food on the table for their families, while banks, credit unions, and retail lenders are hugely bloated institutions that have several layers of directors and management that are non-producing positions that must be paid for by increasing your final costs. Mortgage brokers are better, they're cheaper, they're wiser, faster, and more dedicated to you and your family. They will find you the best loan and a lower rate for you, and the best part is they're still paid by the same bank most of the times. So as promised, 2 amazing loan hacks that you can use to ask your loan officer to determine right away if they have your best interest at hand. So these are more like questions you should ask your loan officer. And the first up is if they are a fully licensed independent loan officer outside of the company that they work for. Follow up on that and see if they are fiduciarily required to have your best interest in the transaction. This will tell you where their loyalty lies, but also be sure to look up their license and verify what they've told you is correct. The second question you need to be asking them is how long they've been licensed. Experience is everything in the mortgage world, and you want to be working with someone with over 2 years of experience at very least. There is a ton of learning as you go in lending, and you absolutely do not want to be a green loan officer's guinea pig while making the largest purchase of your life. So there you have it. Why you should never use your bank for a mortgage, and the 5 major reasons why brokers are better. Please leave a comment below if I missed anything or you have any questions. I'd love to hear from you. And listen, if you gained value or knowledge from this video, do me a huge favor and smash that like button so more people just like you can see this info. And if you liked this video, I'd like to invite you to watch one of my other videos. Over here, I walk you through the complete home buying process step by step. And over here, YouTube is determined that you may enjoy this video. Thank you for tuning in. Until next time, best of luck.